Your birds are trying to tell you something right now. Not metaphorically, not in the loose, poetic way we mean when we say nature speaks to us. Literally, behaviorally, with encoded signals that carry specific meaning to other birds, to other species across your yard, and in some cases, directly toward you. Think about the last time you walked outside and the feeder went quiet. Every bird vanished. You looked up, saw nothing, went back inside. You assumed it was random, a coincidence of timing. It wasn't. Or the time a single bird sat on the fence near you and chipped, short, sharp, insistent, while you pulled weeds. You thought it was incidental, background noise. It wasn't that either. There are 7 specific moments your backyard birds signal something precise. Each one has a real cause, a real meaning, and a direct implication for what is happening in your yard at that exact second. By the end of this video, you will never watch your yard the same way again. Most of us were taught, implicitly, that birds are reactive, that they respond to stimuli the way a motion sensor light responds to a passing car, automatically, without interpretation, without intent. That model is deeply incomplete. Birds don't just react, they encode. A chickadee doesn't simply flee from a hawk. It produces an alarm call that contains specific information about the predator's size, speed, and flight path. Information precise enough that other species across your yard decode it instantly and respond differently depending on what the call contains. A robin doesn't just hop across your lawn. The angle of its head, the pause between movements, the direction of its departure, each element carries signal. We miss almost all of it. Not because it's hidden, because no one told us what we were looking at. These 7 moments are hiding in plain sight, in a yard you've watched for years. The first moment happens in less than a second. You may have already seen it this morning. The feeder is active. Chickadees, a nuthatch, a house finch or two, the familiar rhythm of wings and seeds. Then, nothing. Every bird is gone. The yard is empty. You didn't see anything land or fly over. That silence is not random. It is a coordinated response to a specific threat signal, and it traveled through your yard faster than you could perceive it. What happened is this. One bird saw something you didn't. A Cooper's hawk cruising low along the tree line. A cat moving through the neighbor's yard. It produced what researchers call a seat call, a thin, high-pitched alarm specifically designed to be difficult to locate by a predator. Every bird in earshot understood it immediately. But what if the birds don't go silent? What if one bird stays and starts chipping at you? That is moment 2, and it is one of the most misread signals in backyard birding. A sharp, repetitive chip note, delivered from a low perch, often while the bird faces you or faces the direction of something near you, is not aggression. It is not random vocalization. It is a mobbing recruitment call. The bird is not warning you away. It is asking you, and every bird within earshot, to come closer to something dangerous. Christopher Templeton at the University of Washington spent years decoding the alarm call architecture of black-capped chickadees. His research, published in 2005 in the journal Science, showed that chickadee calls encode the size of a threat in the number of D notes at the end of the call. A small, agile predator, the kind most dangerous to a small bird, produces more D notes than a large, slow one. When a bird chips at you from close range, check the ground nearby. Check the base of your shrubs. Something is there. Moment 3 is visual rather than vocal, and it happens most often at the feeder, at the bird bath, or on a low perch directly in your line of sight. A bird, a starling, a blue jay, a mockingbird, spreads one or both wings slightly, holds the pose for a moment, then retracts. Or it puffs its feathers outward in a slow, deliberate expansion and holds that shape while perched. Wing spreading has 2 completely different meanings depending on context. In full sun, on a flat surface, a fence post, a patio stone, a bird bath rim, It is thermoregulatory. The bird is sunning. It is using ultraviolet radiation to neutralize feather parasites, a behavior documented across at least 50 species in research compiled by the Cornell Lab of Ornithology. But wing spreading during a territorial encounter, facing another bird, body angled forward, feathers compressed rather than fluffed, is a size display. The bird is making itself geometrically larger. Feather fluffing in cold weather means something different still. That bird is cold, or unwell, or both. You've seen all three. You just didn't know you were seeing three different conversations. Every spring and summer, you've watched a robin work your lawn. It stops, tilts its head sideways at nearly 90 degrees, stares at the grass, pulls a worm. You probably assumed it was listening. Moment 4 is about what that head tilt actually means, and the answer is more precise than most people realize. For decades, the assumption was auditory. The tilt brings one ear closer to the ground, allowing the robin to hear subsurface movement. But research published in 2007 by Dr. Reto Strasser at the University of Vienna confirmed that robins rely primarily on vision, not hearing, to locate earthworms. The tilt positions one eye, specifically a lateral eye with an acute visual zone, in direct alignment with the ground surface, at an angle that maximizes detection of slight soil movement. The robin is not listening to your lawn. It is looking through it. And here's what that means for your yard specifically. A robin tilting and pulling on the same patch of lawn repeatedly is telling you something about soil health. Earthworm density is a direct indicator of microbial activity and soil moisture. That bird is mapping your garden in ways you cannot.
Moment 5 is one of the most commonly misread signals at any backyard feeder. A dominant bird, a house sparrow, a grackle, a European starling, arrives and displaces every other bird by simply landing. It doesn't call, it doesn't chase, it doesn't strike. It merely arrives and the feeder clears. Most people read this as bullying, as hierarchy enforced through intimidation. The more accurate frame is information transfer. Dominance hierarchies at a feeder exist because they reduce conflict. A bird that lands and displaces others without physical contact is broadcasting a clear signal. I have won every contest before this one. Everyone at this feeder knows it. The signal works because every bird there has memory, individual, specific, reliable memory of previous encounters. Research from Cambridge University, published by Nicola Clayton's group in 1998, established that Western scrub jays possess episodic-like memory, the ability to remember what happened, where, and when. Subsequent studies have confirmed similar capacities across multiple species. Every bird at your feeder remembers who showed up yesterday and what happened. Your feeder is not a random gathering of hungry birds. It is a community with history.
Moment 6 will change how you hear your mornings. Every spring, before the sun has risen, sometimes well before 4 a.m., a male bird in your yard begins to sing. Full song, sustained, elaborate. You may have assumed this was simply mating behavior, a male advertising himself to females. That is partially true, but only partially. Research from the Max Planck Institute for Ornithology, published in 2014, showed that dawn song serves multiple functions simultaneously. It is territorial advertisement. It is mate attraction. But it is also, and this is the part most people miss, a daily fitness broadcast. A male bird that sings at dawn, when light is too low for foraging and the energetic cost of song is highest, is proving something specific, that he survived the night in good enough condition to spend energy on music. The longer, more complex, and earlier his dawn song, the stronger the signal of his health.
This connects to something worth sitting with. The birds in your yard are not occasional visitors. They are not passersby. They are operating in a landscape they know in extraordinary detail. Your yard, your neighbor's yards, the tree line at the end of the block, the drainage ditch 3 streets over, the park half a mile away. Research from the Lund University Center for Animal Movement Research, published in 2020,
tracked black-capped chickadees across a single winter and found that individual birds maintained cognitive maps of food cache locations spanning hundreds of distinct sites, updated daily, recalled with high accuracy across weeks. Your yard is one node in a network those birds have been maintaining and updating every single day. Every signal they make, every chip call, every wing spread, every head tilt is happening within a landscape they understand far more completely than you do. The seventh moment brings this into sharpest focus, because the seventh moment is when a bird isn't signaling other birds at all. It is signaling you, and doing so because it has learned specifically that you respond.
You have probably noticed this without quite naming it. A bird, often a chickadee, a tufted titmouse, or a Carolina wren, sits very close to you while you work in the yard, closer than birds usually allow. It watches you, not in the frantic, about-to-flee way of a startled bird, calmly, persistently, sometimes for minutes at a time. This is moment 7, and it is the most personal of all of them. Research from the University of Washington, conducted by John Marsluff and published in 2010 in Animal Cognition, showed that American crows can recognize and remember individual human faces and pass that recognition to their offspring. But crow cognition is not an isolated case. It represents a spectrum of social intelligence that runs across many species that live in close proximity to humans. A bird that watches you at close range over multiple sessions, that follows you from one part of the yard to another, has learned something specific about you. That you disturb soil, that you uncover insects, that you don't pose a threat, that where you are, opportunity follows. That bird has filed you in its memory as a known entity in its landscape.
Go back to that moment at the beginning, the feeder that went quiet, every bird gone in under a second. You know now what that was. One bird processed a threat, encoded it into a high-frequency seat call, and broadcast it across a network of listening animals, each of whom decoded it, calculated the risk, and departed. All of it in less time than it takes you to register the absence. Or the bird chipping at you from the fence while you gardened. It wasn't background noise. It was a bird operating in its landscape, producing a signal that had worked before, that had recruited other birds to mob a threat, or that had brought a nearby human upright to look around. And the bird that sits beside you on the fence post while you work, that one knows you, not symbolically, cognitively. It has a model of your behavior stored somewhere in a brain roughly the size of a walnut, and it updates that model every time you appear. The yard has always been a conversation. You just now have a few of the words.
If you want to go deeper into one of the signals from this video, specifically how chickadees encode predator information into the structure of their calls and what it means to have a flock of them living in your yard year-round, the video on this channel about what happens when birds choose your yard over your neighbor's covers exactly that. The way a backyard earns a resident chickadee is a far more deliberate process than most people realize, and it starts with things you can change this week. Watch that next. The link is on screen. And if this video changed the way you'll watch your feeder tomorrow morning, or if there was one moment in your yard that you've never quite been able to explain, leave it in the comments. Every one of them gets read. New video every week. I'll see you in the yard.
This week, do 3 things. First, stand still at your feeder for 10 minutes and count how many distinct vocalizations you hear. Don't try to identify them yet. Just notice that there are more of them than you thought, and that they are not random in timing. Second, when the feeder goes suddenly quiet, don't look at the sky first. Look at ground level, along the fence line, through the base of your shrubs, across the lawn near the brush pile. The predator that triggered the silence is almost always low and slow, not high and fast. Third, if you have a regular bird that watches you while you work, note which direction it perches relative to where you're digging or disturbing. You will likely find it's always positioned to see what you're uncovering. That bird is using you, deliberately. You have become a known tool in its foraging strategy. You are already part of this world. Now you can see your place in it. New video every week. I'll see you in the yard.